we said yesterday was if you have a coal and you burning coals, and a burning coal, that fire of a burning coal is good enough to say Borim or Aish, as long as it's fiery enough that if you put a twig into that coal, and when you put the twig in that coal, put a twig in that coal, the twig will go on fire right away. So that the Gemara says is a sign that it's reached the level that is still considered a real fire. That if it could light up a twig, like any match would light up anything, and not that you have to push the twig around and move it around. You just put it in and just goes right on, lights right away. That is the sign of a proper fire of the coal that you could make a bracha borim or aish on that. Not because you didn't manipulate it. It's that the fire is strong. It came to a level that you could go ahead and you see. It would seem to follow it. You want to get it to a certain level, right? You had, in order to say borim or aish, we had the idea. There's two conditions need to be met. You have to see a flame. And also, there's another condition is that you have to have a certain level of benefit. That meaning you could have some.
Let's start with the first one that you mentioned. The first one that you mentioned, you could see a flame.
Right.
So if you had an area that was filled with leaves, and under the leaves there was a flame.
No good.
It's no good. So
even though it's illuminating the area, even though the light is going through the leaves,
it's not bringing it to a level where it's
no, even if it's bringing a level, but you don't see the flame. Like remember the Gemara, the case is the guy moved. The guy's going the corner, right? The case that we had. The guy you put a flame, nice flame, and it's illuminating the whole area. But you're standing here, and the other guy and the other guy's on the other side, and he can't see the flame.
Right.
No good.
Right. No good.
Even though you're benefiting, from the
introducing the idea that it has to be seen.
The flame has to be seen.
It has no idea. No.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, good to see you. Morning, everybody.
Morning, everybody.
Boker Tov. We introduced the idea that the flame. Good to see you, Nathan.
Rabbi, Boker Tov.
Flame has to be seen.
Rabbi.
Boker Tov, Yosef. Yes.
Nobody intended
Yes.
to be starting the class.
Oh, that was a mistake. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. We forgot. We just started a couple of minutes ago, but thank you for being on top of it, Yosef and Tzaddik. Yosef, you can send it to the group if you want. It's Yosef and Tzaddik. Yosef, shalom. Wow, long time. Yes, now you know Joseph Amon. So we said that the code that we serving it is important, and also benefiting from the coals is very important. Meaning, if you observe the fire, you don't have any benefit from it.
Let's take the first one. The first one is observing.
Observing it.
You can't observe it.
No good. And if you could observe it,
we can't understand the criteria. How much does have to be seen in order to qualify for that?
right, for the bracha bar race. Then we said one thing, another. Even if you see the fire, but you said if you're on the other side of the room and you don't benefit from the fire, you see it, but it's not helping you in your vision. You would not be able to say the bracha because you do not benefit from the fire. I see the fire, but it's not doing anything for me. I can't.
What benefit do I have if I see it from? It's very clear. When you say I don't benefit from it, what do I
Meaning it's not illuminating my area. My area has to light my area up that I could benefit. I could actually have a benefit from that light, not just seeing the light, but the benefit, actual benefit, visual benefit that the light is illuminating my space.
Okay. That's one criteria.
One question. Yes, another criteria, even if it illuminates my space, but I need to see the flame. If I don't see the flame,
It doesn't work.
doesn't work. Yes, Yosef. Is that clear, Ms. Neighbor? Yes.
What about a fireplace, like a wood stove or something like that, that you operated in the beginning of before Shabbat, and it lasts for all Shabbat?
And why did you put why was the purpose that fire was made? For cooking purposes or for illumination purposes to give you the vision?
No,
For heating purposes. What was the reason for it?
for heat,
What did you say?
for heating purposes.
So for heating purposes, we said that is not, you cannot say the bracha on a fire that was made, was created, when the intention was for heating purposes. The fire that you say a bracha on is a fire that was said, that was created for the purpose of illumination purposes, which is similar to Adam Harishon. The fire that he created Saturday night is the fire that we're saying that in order that he should be able to see, perhaps. Yes.
Does this fire take fire?
Hold, Yosef, 1 second. Hold on 1 second. What did you say, Mara? No.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're saying, you're showing that they were, yeah, but you could, but it could have been made for other purposes. It could be for visual purposes.
I mean, candles, it was probably lit up, no?
Right, but the question is, well, why are you lighting the candles? Are you lighting the candles for
What's the definition?
illumination purposes or for other purposes?
What's the definition of Borim?
Right, Hashem creates the lights. Borei means like Briata Olam, the creator. Like we say, Borei mine mizonot. Borei pri hadama. The word Borei means creator. Morei is the lights. Lights. Few plural, the different colors.
The relevance of what you just said is the most important thing. That in the time they didn't have it, they created it. They were happy to get back to a point where Hashem made ish, he made fire.
We're told Adam was able to figure out how to make fire for the two rocks.
For the purposes of
right. So he might have been
illumination.
Illumination. Right. He might have. It's interesting point. He might have used the point of the fire for illumination, for heating. But the rabbis wanted
the heat one is not.
It's not going to make right. The rabbis did not want to commemorate right.
They want
commemorate the vision.
At this particular time, it's nightfall. It kind of came to so many minutes after we could it's no longer light. You need to create light, have light, and it's a big virtue. And that's why he says it. He says it because this particular kindling of getting the pieces of wood together establishes that. And once it's established that, it has nothing to do with heat.
Right, but I would like to add a point. I heard a rabbi say that before the Mabul, before the flood, the world's temperature was beautiful, like a perfect temperature climate.
Really?
And therefore, it's a long day and night. Therefore, you did not need heat. Meaning before, by the time of Adam Harishon, imagine that the climate was perfect. So therefore, they would not need light for the purpose of what? Of heating, but you still need light for the purpose of a visual aid. So therefore, therefore the point when he made that fire Saturday night, that fire's purpose was not for the purpose of heating. For heating, he didn't need to be heated up. He needed to. That's the main purpose of that light. I just want to emphasize the table. The light that he created on Saturday night was mainly, the purpose was for visual purpose. He didn't need it for heating purposes. So now you can ask the question, what about maybe did he need it for cooking purposes? But that wasn't the benefit that he needed, that he had, and the immediate benefit that he had when he created that light was light, was seen. And therefore rabbis want us to commemorate that and to recognize God as the one who creates light, who creates Borei More, the light of the fire. He's the one, Orei Ha'esh.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Within that context, that's why when we say Borim and Ha'esh, we establish the difference between the different
fingernails and to be able to show that we are having benefit. We are benefiting.
We're showing the benefit. We're demonstrating.
It would demonstrate, but the most important thing is to demonstrate, to know for ourselves that we are having benefit.
So it's weird that you hold it up because you have benefited. You just like
At the point they hold up the candles to maybe they maybe just be able to. I presume it's the point that I could see my nails.
Like this,
The way we do it is we stick we go like this. And then we go like that. That seems to be Now, we can look into the halacha more. Why is this specific this fashion? But this is the way that you see the nail. You go like this, and now it could be
How
also.
you do it is a factor, but the primary thing is we're establishing that the ash is the light, the illumination. That's the primary thing
They were benefiting from the illumination, right? For the seeing purposes.
What's beautiful about is that we don't do the bracha during the week.
Right.
Because during the week we have the ability to light, to shut down, to light the candle. But on Shabbat, during the light before Shabbat, and we're not allowed to touch the light until after Shabbat. So we have to put a new light, and that light we do the bracha only because it's new. We didn't have it during Shabbat. We're not allowed to light it or to shut it down. Only after Shabbat, we create a new light. We do bracha only.
Okay, but that's an interesting point. But I think the focus, the reason Yaron is more because Adam Harishon, the event of the creation of the light, happened on Saturday night, Motzei Shabbat, because he did this historical event of the creation of light, that fire that Adam created, happened on Motzei Shabbat, and therefore that's why we commemorate that.
Do we touch on if the Shabbat candles are still lit? Because those for the purpose of just lighting.
Right. So it pointed very good. It would seem like what Nathan said. If a person would light Shabbat candle, he has a 26-hour Shabbat candle. Most people don't have a 26-hour Shabbat candle. But let's say in the old days, he really filled it up with the oil and he wanted it to illuminate for the whole Shabbat. Because what did they have? They had no electricity. Yeah, right. So Hanukkah, we're not allowed to benefit from the Hanukkah menorah light. But the light of Shabbat we benefit from. So it would seem that Nathan should be correct, that if a person goes ahead and Friday, right. So if a person on Friday afternoon, let's say Shabbat at 6 o'clock, 5 to 6, the lady took a full thing of oil and she lit something that's lasting for 26 hours, and comes after Shabbat. Now, can I say a bracha on that? I would say yes, because I lit it for the purpose of what? Lighting purposes. I did not light it. It's not like a yahrzeit candle out of honor for the dead person. This was lit for illumination purposes. Oh, so you're saying we need better to have 2 wicks together. But let's say you lit something. Okay, you good point. Usually in Shabbat, we don't put 2 wicks together. What?
I do bracha only before Shabbat. I pick Ner Shel Shabbat on the light that I'm lighting for 26 hours.
But now it's after Shabbat. I want to say bracha bar moresh on the fire.
No, I need to see the condition before Shabbat. I'm saying like if the light is going to be on until after Shabbat, I'm going to use it.
No, I mean you lit it. I mean you say you lit it to light to be able to see. So why shouldn't I be able to? We had the case in the Gemara. If you had something, a lantern lit from Friday afternoon, you say bracha after Shabbat. We have that in the Gemara. It was to be lit, and it was lit for the purpose of illumination.
It lit with the purpose of illumination for 26 hours.
Yeah, that's why they lit it. Yes. So you're right, Nathan. You should be able to make a bracha. Now you brought up a different point. What about the idea of having 2 wicks?
Is not.
You don't need to create. You don't need to
create light.
Right. You have to recognize on a Saturday night. You have to say a bracha on a light on a light. Correct. You don't need to create the light.
If you were walking somewhere and time came where light was evident, it was lit. You walk, you see light on. You say Baruch Tashem with ash. You could say that.
Well, what's the case, Mr. Haber? What's the case? You're walking, and you walk.
The first time you saw light, or
a fire. You saw a fire. So now the question is, are you in a Jewish neighborhood? Not, okay, Jewish neighborhood, not Jewish. Because if it's not Jewish neighborhood, they might have lit it on Shabbat. Now you can't say the bracha on. Or a Jewish neighborhood, if you see a candle, if I would be passing by in the old days, I pass by a house. And I see a candle, I see a fire. On Motzei Shabbat, I say bracha, I say bar moresh. If I can, because that's because we said the Gemara says as long as majority are Jewish, the Gemara says we had a case in the Gemara. You were passing by outside the city and you saw a fire. So it says if it's majority Jewish, say bracha, bar moresh. That's what the Gemara says. I want to add a little thought.
And you don't have to add light. In other words, it doesn't have to be new light. that's created.
Right, correct.
So
Right.
bracha is not about creation.
The bracha is recognizing there was a creation of light on Saturday night, but I don't need to create something on Saturday night. I can have something that was created before Shabbat and just recognize. But I need on Saturday night, I need to recognize this phenomenon.
Oh.
So it's not the creating something Saturday night, but it's recognizing, saying the bracha on Saturday night.
But isn't the purpose for the Shabbat candles a totally different purpose for lighting? Or no?
So Shabbat candles, see, now you bring up a good point, Nathan.
I would say that it's no good. Because,
Right.
We're cooking, the fire is still beautiful and it's still nice and we still admire it, but because the exact purpose was not for,
Very good. Excellent.
would say
Nathan's bring
no.
up a great point. Say, Rabbi, but the Shabbos candles is for some other purpose as well. So remember we had in the Gemara, if it's multi-purpose, according to the way Rashi understands, a fire that's multi-purpose was made for 2 points, for illumination and for something else is also good. So the Shabbat candles, one reason why we have Shabbat candles is to be able to see. The Gemara says, Shalom Bayit. There should be peace in the house. Why do you light candles? Why did the rabbis institute that you have to light candles before Shabbat? Because people, if people fall, they get in a bad mood. It leads to people that are upset and they get angry. Chas v'shalom. There's no peace when you fall, right? You feel, because you can't see.
Wow.
When you get to be right. So therefore, that's for the purpose of the light, that you're able to see. So that, right, but there's another purpose of light. Now you can say, Rabbi, on Shabbat we have electric lights on. So what's the my lights? My Friday candles for Shabbat is not that I should be able to see, because I'm able to see without the candles. So what is the Shabbat candles? It's for kavod. Then it's for a different purpose as well. Not only for the purpose of seeing, to be able to illuminate the area, it has another purpose out of honor. You honor the Shabbat when you have a dinner. People go out to a restaurant. But some restaurants, the lights are pretty dark. But some restaurants, even if the lights are on, they still have candles at the table. Why do you have candles at the table? The lights are on. The answer is candles bring elegance. It's honorable that you put candles, even restaurants during the daytime. You got to tell me I don't really go to restaurants too much. Maybe you know a little more about this than me. But people have candles in restaurants, even I presume even by day. Is that a correct statement or not? What? It's a nice thing. But even at night, even if the lights are on in the restaurant,
there's a tranquility that
candles bring. Exactly. To that point, it's not for illumination purposes. You're correct. But since it is made for both purposes, you should be able. I would say you should be able to use that fire. I want to share a thought. Perhaps the idea of Saturday night when we light the Havdalah candle, and we're saying it's the idea, we're commemorating the idea of illumination, of light that Adam created by putting the rocks together, and fire came out to be able to see. Perhaps it's a lesson for us to take throughout the whole week. We need to have the right vision throughout the week. Wow. The right vision doesn't just mean to see the actual area around, to see with a proper vision how we're going to lead our life, to illuminate our eyes, to be able to be coming into a new week. And we need to have proper. A lot of people are not. They don't light themselves up in the way they should lighting themselves up. They're leading a dark life. Okay. Very good. Very good. Right, we got to have the right vision. Okay, I just want to share that thought that came to me today. What you saying?
If you live like places you live in Manhattan, people who live in places where they cook and live at the same time. Sometimes they say if you light a candle and you cook, the smell doesn't stay in. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't be the same for that purpose, right?
But here the question is, the purpose here, we're lighting for the purpose of seeing, to see. As long as you light for the purpose of seeing, and even according to Rat, we saw that even if it's for seeing plus another reason, but if one of the reasons why you're doing it is for seeing purposes, you could say a bracha on the light. When people are cooking Saturday night, that fire for cooking is not for seeing purposes. It's only for, unless it's the old days. In the old days, maybe they had, they didn't have electricity, so therefore maybe sometimes they had that multi-purpose focus. So now the Gemara, so we said yesterday that in order for it to be considered a real fire, a coal, you see, it seems from the Gemara that a coal is an interesting question. Do we look at a coal as a flame? Is enough of a fire? Meaning, even though the coal gives you illumination, and right, it gives you illumination. But the question is that a fire that the rabbis say that you can say a bracha on? So the Gemara says it depends. How strong that's what we say. We are Nun Gimel on the base, 53b. How strong is the coal? If you could put a twig in there and it lights up, that's you can say a bracha on that. That's a coal that's a fire that you can say a bracha on. You see it, you see the coal, but as we know, the flame of a coal is not really, the flame is just, you see that, right, you see that light of the coal. But the question is that a light that you could say a bracha on or not? That light of the coal. So the Gemara says it depends on the strength of that coal. That's what the Gemara, it's a new idea the Gemara is saying. Even though it's not a question of whether, the coal idea seems to be a new idea. I see the coal, I benefit from the illumination, but the question is this considered a real flame, a flame that I could say bracha on? So the Gemara says it depends how strong the coal is. If that fire of the coal is strong enough that you put a little twig there, you can say a bracha on it. If not, you cannot say a bracha. That's what we ended yesterday. That was the story of the coals. Now, Gemara says, Iboiluhu. We're about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines into the wide lines on Nun Gimel and Aleph. We mentioned if the coals go down and the Gemara. I'm a base. Sorry about that. 50. I'm sorry. Forgive me. 53b.
That's a little letter on the line.
Yes. There was third line was Taner Rabbanan, right? Let's go back to that third line. Third line, Taner Rabbanan starts with Va'azla. You have it, Nathan? Maybe you got it? Taner Rabbanan. Morris, Kiva, you got it? Taner Rabbanan, third line. Gechalim lo chashot. So if you have coals that are really glowing coals, okay, right, glowing coals. What's the law? Mevorchen aleim. You could say a bracha on them. Umamot, but if the coals are dimming, then we say you cannot say a bracha. They're still glowing to a certain extent, but they're not really. Doesn't have that strength of that real glowing coal. It's moving, right?
Is that how it normally is with the coal? Like it gets red and then it goes away. Like that.
Does coal get red and then it goes away?
But obviously, we're talking about the intensity of that on that fire on that coal is. You see, it's already dimming.
Wow.
That's the case. Then the Gemara says you do not say a bracha on that coal. What's called lochashot? That it's glowing. At what level is it? They're both glowing, different levels of glowing. So what's the glowing level that you can say a bracha on the coals? The Gemara says what we said. If you put a splinter, a twig, into that coal, and then it jumps out, it catches fire. That's good. That would be considered good. Now, we said a statement that if the coals are dimming, it's going down, if you don't say a bracha. So the Gemara wants to know a technical point. What's the proper spelling of the word omamot? You want to spell the word omamot? Is omamot with an aleph or omamot with an ayin?
The coal is only lining for
Right, you put the coals up. It's not for cooking. You lit the. It's not for barbecue. Not for barbecue. I lit illumination purposes. Maybe it was lit before. Maybe it was lit before Shabbat. Maybe it was lit after Shabbat. but I never said a bracha on it. Let's say somebody lit the coals, or someone else lit the coals. Someone came home Motzei Shabbat, he lit the coals, he said a bracha. I came home a half hour later, 45 minutes later, and now the coals are already going down. So now the question is, what can I still say the bracha? The first guy that came home, hey, he had a nice coal. By the time I came home, it's going down. So that's what we need to know.
Hookah.
But they smoke something. What is
Yeah,
it?
and like you put a coal on top of tobacco,
All right.
and like when you inhale, you see the coal turn red because there's like airflow going through it. But it's not. It's black.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So
We
yeah,
have our own coal specialist.
right, yes. There's a guy in my neighborhood.
Coal specialist.
Talk about coal. There's a guy. I have a neighbor. He was the one who got coal on the exchange.
Really?
He was the one who created the idea. He's a Baal Tshuva, and he was the one who got coal to be traded on the exchange.
Wow.
I like that, Mr. Haber.
He
He got coal as a commodity to be traded on the exchange.
Oh, really?
But you know what happened with this guy? Let's fit this guy. It's a nice thing to say. Here he was, he got coals to be traded on the exchange, a worldly event. So he flew around the world, all over the world, from this place, that place. He was speaking. He became one of this big, popular guys. He's also Governor Pataki appointed him on one of the commissions, energy, whatever. And he said, you know what? He was a single guy. He would come home to his four walls of his apartment. He said, you know what? I got all the, Aaron, you listening? This guy, my neighbor, Baal Tshuva, became religious, and then he became very famous when he got this coals on the exchange, on the commodity exchange. And he came home at night to an empty house with four walls. He was not married. He said, I have all the fame. I'm traveling all over the world speaking about coals. But if I come home to an empty apartment, I got to get married. He got married, Baruch Hashem. He got married a little late in life, and he has children, thank God. So it's just it's an interesting story.
You live in Chicago?
He lives in Lower East Side, Stanford Business School. Very. This is much better. This is the code. Got to talk to. So the Gemara continued. Some people get so caught up in the material world, but some people don't realize it. He was smart to realize that this is not where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the Gemara says, "Iboyalu omamot." How do you like the story, Mr. Haber? Iboyalu omamot or omamot? What's the proper way to spell this word omamot? Is it with an aleph or with a what? Ayin. Because it sounds the same, right? Because remember, they were learning by heart, correct? Omamot means it's dimming. The fire is dimming. So the Gemara says, Toshma. The Omer of Chizda bar Avdimi, of Chizda bar Avdimi says that he brings a pasuk. Arozim lo amamuhu began Elokim. We have a pasuk that talks about the arozim. Arozim is the cedar wood, and let's get the context of the pasuk over here. Let's see the pasuk. 1 second. It says about all the cedar wood would not, the light will not go down. That's what the pasuk says. And let's see if it says, pasuk is talking about the nevuah of Yecheskel. Yecheskel Hanavi, and was the nevuah of Yecheskel Hanavi regarding the king of Ashur, to say to Paro, king of Mitzrayim, and it discussed and he says about the arozim lo mamu began elakim. All the cedars did not lose its color, because it did not lose it did not dim the color, because the cedar is the greatest of all trees. As we know, the cedar wood is the greatest. That's the greatest of all trees. And we see in that pasuk, it's used, the word amamuhu is with an ayin. So the Gemara says that the proper spelling for amamuhu is with an ayin. Let's see what he says.
It's not simple.
Yeah. So
The Hebrew is also not the Hebrew. The reading is not clear.
So good. But we have to learn the Navi exactly, the story, what's going on over there. But regarding for our purposes, the Gemara is saying that we see that the word amamos, dimming, is spelled with a what? With an ayin. That's the proper spelling of amamos. Now, why is it important for us to know? Okay, because he's asking a good question, because you want to know if you would write it down, right? Because later on, eventually they did write down the Gemara, and you want to know what's the proper spelling. It's important to know what's the proper spelling for the word of how do you write. If you're going to write this down, you write the certain, they heard it and then they write it. Then eventually later on they wrote it down. They want to know how to spell. You want to be exact in how you spell it. How do you spell it?
No mistake.
But it's a good question. Nathan's really asking a good question. What's the difference? I mean, do I need to know the spelling of that word? Why is it so important to know how to spell it? Obviously, most probably once you write it down and you give something over, yeah, it's important to, and obviously there's a holiness to the language. So if something is spelled a certain way, there's a point that something is spelled a certain way. What'd you say?
No, I said, is it different meaning depending on how it's spelled? Or?
See, the Gemara, that's a good point. It could be that it means something else if it's spelled differently also.
Plus, I think I heard you saying some time ago that every word in the Hebrew written in the Torah or this thing is so carefully written.
Yes, every letter of the Torah is 100%, and there's a million different meanings and gematrios, and everything is based on a letter. The numerical value of one letter is different than the numerical value of another letter, right? So in the Torah, if this is the letter, then it's telling us every letter. If you spell a letter wrong in the Torah, it's a whole big deal. But here also, it's interesting that they wanted to know what's the appropriate spelling of this word. Okay, now the Gemara takes a different opinion. Yes, wanted to say something?
No.
So the Gemara says, "V'Rava Amar." Rava disagrees with what we said earlier. Rava says what we said earlier. We had an opinion that says that you do not need to actually benefit from the fire directly. We had an opinion that says as long as you have the potential to benefit from the fire. There's an opinion that says if you see the fire, you have potential, that's good enough. Rava says that's not, he doesn't agree. Rava says potential here is not enough. If you're standing over there, and if you're not close enough, that's not good enough that you have potential to come close. You have to actually come close. That's what Rava, and that's the halacha. That's how we've been explaining the Gemara. The other opinion says potential is good enough. Remember we had the Gemara yesterday. The Gemara says potential, and he says potential is not good enough. Rava Amar, Rava says with 5 months, Yautu mamash. You have to actually benefit from the fire, not just have the ability to benefit from the fire. So he says, V'kama, what's called benefiting? What's called that I had a benefit that I could say a bracha on? So he says, Ula says, Kedei sheyakir beit isol lepunyon. To be able to tell the difference between two types of coins. Let's say a quarter and a nickel. Or an Anthony, Susan B. Anthony $1 and a quarter. Whatever, these are two different coins, and you have to be able to have enough light to.
Said that earlier.
Right. We spoke that, correct.
Because yesterday was a machloket, and we have a question on the Gemara. One of the rabbi after we answer no, we have no question on them because it's a weak fire or something like that.
Right.
But now in this thing,
Right. Rav is Rav is disagreeing with that opinion. Exactly.
Oh.
Rav is holding you have to actually have actual benefit. The fact that you could come close is not good enough. You have to be close enough that at the time of the bracha, you are benefiting from the fire, and how much benefit you need to have. So Rava says the benefit that you can tell the difference between two types of coins, but the two types of coins are from the same country. So which Chesky Amar, what's what Chesky says? Kedei sheyake be meluzma shel Tiveria lemeluzma shel Sipori. To tell the difference between let's say a weight, a stone is used as a weight, and you have a stone, let's say a certain weight type of stone they would use in Tiveria for a weight measure for a certain weight, and they would use in Sipori a different type of stone as the weight measure. So if you're able to tell, like that same way we have like a Canadian quarter and an American quarter. They're both quarters, but they're different. This is Canadian quarter, it's an American quarter. So here, this weight is a stone. It's a different type of stone that the way they shape that stone that's used in different. As long as you could see the difference, that is called you had proper benefit. Right, something similar to that. However, others say, that these are also two different coins from two different countries. Rashi says these are different weights. Others learn that it's referring to two different coins from two different countries, and they are more similar. Let's say, like for instance, if you have two different in the same country, when the same country prints two different coins, generally the difference is more clearer because the country makes two different coins, right? So you make a quarter and you make a nickel, right? A quarter and a nickel, it's pretty different. But when you have two different countries making coins, Canada does not think about the American quarter so much. Maybe they should have. Other countries, when they make a coin, they don't think about the size of the coin of another country. They just say, this is the coin of our country. So therefore, he's of the opinion the amount of light has to be more than the other opinion. The first opinion says, let's say you can see the difference between a quarter and a nickel. And this opinion says, no, the American quarter and the Canadian quarter. Now, to see the difference between an American quarter and a Canadian quarter, you need more light than a nickel and a quarter. That's what they're arguing. They're arguing on what's the amount of light that you need to have in order for you to say the bracha Borei Moreish.
Light? What do you mean?
How much light of the fire that you said? Most of the
this is a good fire.
There's a good fight. I can say Borei Moreish. So one opinion says, as long as you can see the difference between the two coins of the same country, or specific coins of the country, that's considered enough light.
Okay.
Right. The other opinion says you have to have a higher level light. That two different coins from two different countries, which are very similar, you need to have enough light that you can say the difference. I like to give the example of a Canadian quarter and American quarter.
You don't need necessarily light. I mean, if you're dyslexic, it doesn't really matter.
So most people need you need more light to tell between an American quarter than a Canadian quarter than you need to a quarter and a nickel. So that's what he's holding. And then the Gemara says, then the rabbis held differently on this opinion. The Gemara says, Rava, so then the Gemara says, Yehuda mevorech adavei Ada Daila. When he would pass the house of Ada Daila, even though that house was a distance from him, he held like Rav, that if I go past Mr. Haber's case before about a city, here we have a case. I'm outside this guy's house. I'm not so close to the guy's house. I see the fire in his house. He has a window, or let's say, or opening in the house. It's clearly open. I see the fire, but so one opinion. This rabbi held, since there's potential, I can say the bracha. We hold. You can't do it.
What did you do? You took two coins. You make this. Okay, I can see the difference. I do the
he saw right. He's right. No, he did not. He was at a distance. He would not be able to see two different coins. But the fact that he had potential, I mean, he argued on this rabbi. He's taken the position of yesterday's rabbi. Exactly. As long as you have the potential to come close, even though you're not close, but I could come close and benefit from that fire, the fire has significance. But I didn't come close yet, that's good enough. So therefore, in practice, he would pass by a house, he would say a bracha. Rava mevorach at the big Guria Bachama. Rava, he only made a bracha on his neighbor's house, right next door. I saw it, I benefited. But if it was at the house that was a little more distance from me, he would not say a bracha on such a thing. Abaye mevorach at the Bei Baravua. Abaye made a bracha on Bei Baravua, who was also a distance away from him. So we have three different rabbis. It seems two of the rabbis followed. See, some commentators say the third, it's not clear which Abaye said a bracha on Bei Baravua. Was that house close to him or far away from him? But we see that the rabbis have a difference of opinion in practice. Which house could you say a bracha on fire that I have potential to come close and benefit, but I did not come close? I see the house. Let's say my neighbor two houses away. Do I have to be right next to the house of my neighbor to have actual benefit, or potential is good enough? And the halacha is that you have to actually benefit. If I see my neighbor's fire and I see it and it's a nice, beautiful fire, but if I'm not close enough to benefit, I cannot say, well, what? And the halacha is like, if I see my friend has a fire in his house, but I'm at a distance that where I am at this moment, I cannot benefit from the fire because it's too far away from me. Even though he has a beautiful fire, but I can't benefit. I'm 100 feet away. I cannot say the bracha.
But you can see the fire.
I see the fire, but I'm not benefiting from the fire. Seeing the fire is not enough. I can see if I see a fire, but if it's too far away from me, I'm not benefiting from it. I see a nice fire, but it's not illuminating my space. Has to illuminate my space. Okay, we'll see everybody tomorrow, Bez Hashem. Back to Avi. We welcome Avi back.
Ali,
Yosef, are you on? Yosef? A question. Can you send me Shmuel's number, please? Yosef? Unstable internet. Maybe they didn't hear.